The mud doesn't just swallow bodies. It swallows memory, identity, and the voice that was once yours. In some places, the traveler doesn't return as he was, not because he has changed, but because the place has decided to reshape him. I write these words not to warn anyone, but to salvage what remains of my memory before it erodes as the earth eroded beneath my feet. My steps, driven by cursed curiosity, led me to the East Anglian Fens, that remote patch of land that spits out time and swallows meaning. I was told the place was haunted by ancient legends, whispers of a creature seen only by those who have lost themselves, and instead of turning back as the wise would do, I stayed. I lingered. I thought I was watching the fen until it began watching me. When I arrived at the forgotten village of Wheatley, I expected nothing more than a few dull days of scientific research among insects and stagnant water. I carried a notebook, some tools, and a curiosity doubled by local reports of strange sightings in the fog. A one-eyed woman met me at the first wooden entrance, saying without my asking, "He who enters must remember how to leave." I smiled politely and walked towards the small clay house I had rented through a long correspondence with a man named Olden. He wasn't there to greet me, but his door was open, and the place was tidier than I expected. I woke up to the sound of a door opening somewhere in the house. I immediately went to check, but all the doors were closed, and all the windows too. The strange thing was that the light entering from under the interior door wasn't sunlight, but light the color of mud. I opened the door and found a corridor that hadn't been there yesterday, leading to a room I hadn't rented and had never seen before. I entered cautiously, and the furniture inside was covered with gray sheets, and the walls were weeping cold dew with a smell unlike anything I knew. I decided to leave, but when I returned to the door I had entered through, there was only a wall. I kept moving inside, opening new doors, each one leading me to a different room, unlike the last. Every time I thought I had found a way out, I discovered I was returning to the same room I started from, but with a different furniture arrangement or a different smell. In one of the rooms, I found an old photograph on the wall. I approached it, and it was a picture of me. I froze. I had never taken a picture in this place, and it couldn't be old, and I was young in the picture now. I sat on the floor, breathing slowly. I wrote in my notebook, "The only exit is the inside itself." I finally left the room, only to find myself in what looked like a small market in the heart of the village, which I hadn't seen in the previous 2 days. The huts were clustered together, and the people moved in silence, as if everything was part of a ritual that shouldn't be interrupted. I approached a man selling strange roots at a wooden table. I asked him, "What is the name of this plant?" He looked at me steadily. He didn't answer. He just smiled. I moved to a woman sweeping the entrance to her hut. I repeated my question, and she smiled the same way. Every face I saw bore the same expression of excessive smiling, the same stillness in the eyes, the same slight nod of the head. No one spoke. No one truly interacted. I sat near a stone fountain in the middle of the square. I felt like I was in a social nightmare, where the mask could not be broken. Then, from behind me, I heard a short laugh. I turned quickly to find a child running. There was nothing strange about him, except that his face was a miniature version of the old man I had first asked. The same eyes, the same smile. The smiles didn't change, even when I screamed. I woke up to a faint sound, as if someone was stepping over a puddle, but the steps weren't coming from outside, but from inside, from beneath the room's floor. I followed the sound until I found a loose wooden board in the corner of the room. I lifted it and found a narrow tunnel leading down beneath the house. I grabbed my lamp and descended. Below, a circular room, as if carved into the mud. The walls were covered with primitive carvings, some carefully erased. But in the middle of the room, stones were arranged in a circle, and at its center were the remains of something resembling animal bones or a child. I sat and watched in silence. I didn't know what I was doing there, but something inside me told me just to watch, not to interfere. Around midday, the stones began to gleam with inexplicable moisture. Then, the floor began to tremble slowly, as if there were heartbeats from beneath the earth. I heard a distant whisper. No, closer, as if the mud was speaking directly into my ear. I understood, or imagined I understood, that this ritual was not being performed for me, but to prevent me. What they were doing wasn't directed at me, but to prevent me. I woke up late today, my head heavy, as if something had crept into my dreams and mixed them with mud. The house was eerily silent. No bird sounds, no insect chirps, not even the creak of the wind. I went to open the front door, but it wouldn't move. No lock, no chain, just a passive resistance, as if the wood itself refused to let me leave. I tried the windows, and they were like walls. I turned back and opened my notebook to write, but I found words that weren't mine, in my handwriting. Don't try to leave today. He is watching. Another page, with today's date at the top, and beneath the title, lines written precisely. You will try to open the second window. You will see it shake, but it will not break. Do not insist. I raised my head to the second window, and the glass shook as it was written, as if someone or something was standing behind it, pressing lightly, then withdrawing. I approached cautiously, placed my palm on the glass, and it calmed. But the fog from outside didn't disappear. It thickened to form a human shadow, unclear in features. But it resembled me. I turned my head away, then looked back, and found nothing. But in the notebook, a new sentence appeared. I am the one who entered before you, and never left. Today, I didn't try to break the door again. Instead, I sat and watched the house, and it watched me. Not every prison is made of bars. Sometimes it is built of time and intention. I woke up this morning to a slow, dripping sound, as if a faucet was leaking a drop every minute, but it wasn't coming from inside. The sound was coming from the direction of the fen. I went out cautiously. The fog was thicker than before, but it wasn't random this time. It seemed like a living wall, breathing, and slowly receding to reveal a narrow, muddy path I hadn't seen before, leading into the heart of the fen. I walked, despite everything telling me not to. On a small bank, I found a well with no edges, dug directly into the waterlogged ground. I approached and looked inside, and didn't see my reflection. Instead, I saw the back of a man. Then he turned. It was me, but older, with sunken eyes and a voice that didn't come from a mouth. You are going too far. You will be swallowed by what you don't yet understand. I retreated, but he kept looking at me from the bottom of the water, even after I stood upright. I ran back to the house, closed the door, and opened my notebook to write what I had seen. But I found it open to a new page, on which was written, The well is not the source of the sound. It is the listener. At night, I heard the echo of my voice reading what I had written from beneath the ground. My soul awoke late this day, but I wasn't sure what I woke up to. The furniture around me looked as if it had been moved, but I couldn't remember when that happened. The walls pulsed in a strange rhythm, as if they were alive. At first, I thought they were figments of my mind, but what I saw made me turn around more than once to confirm what I was seeing. The glass in the windows distorted the reality behind it, creating warped reflections, as if the outside world had begun to change. The sky itself was deeper than usual, filled with details I had never seen before. I saw it as if it were a broken mosaic, disconnected, while the sun itself was strangely distorted. This wasn't just a feeling. Gravity itself was changing around me, and light was twisting unnaturally. When I stood, I felt a strange weight pressing on my body, as if the earth itself had become heavier, as if I were trapped between layers of time and dimensions. Every step I took pulled me further towards the ground, as if I no longer had the same gravity. The colors around me were disintegrating and distorting. Things were disappearing and appearing in other places. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize my face. My eyes were blurry, as if reflecting a broken image. My personal belongings were changing rapidly, as if scattering and then gathering in unfamiliar places. I couldn't distinguish between what was real and what was distorted. Everything seemed to be decomposing before my eyes. I tried to escape to another place inside the house, but the walls seemed to be closing in on me more and more. The day began to decompose, as if the sun itself was afraid. It wasn't just a feeling, it was a distorted reality. I was returning from an endless dream. As for the place, it seemed as if it had begun to breathe. The small creatures we used to see were disappearing and changing, as if we were just dots in a storm larger than us. I was tired of trying. This place wouldn't let me go easily. Today, I couldn't distinguish between what was real and what was illusion. I wandered through the house as if lost. Every corner seemed strange. The place itself began to resemble a broken mirror. Everything reflected itself, but in a distorted way, as if there was something else behind every image. I was standing in front of the mirror in the living room, my eyes focused on my reflection, but something wasn't right. I felt something uncomfortable in the image that appeared before me. This wasn't me, it was him, but more truthful. Sharper in his features and darker in his eyes. He reflected me, but he wasn't me. I moved away from the mirror, but I felt he remained behind me. I turned quickly, but saw nothing. Only the shadow he cast, as if it were caressing the edges. I wanted to scream, but the sound caught in my throat. I felt trapped between the version I saw in reality and the other version watching me from within everything. Even the walls around me weren't as they were before. They seemed to breathe, with every vibration in the air. And the only sound filling the place was the sound of my soul repeating my name. But I didn't believe myself. I saw that I was in a dual place, between two different worlds. The first, where I used to live, and the second, where I was just a copy of myself. When I returned to the room where I thought I had left my notebooks, there was a new paper on the table. Words were written on it that seemed to have come from another place. You are not here, but you still see. Not everything you see is reality, and the mirror is more than it reflects. I couldn't imagine how the place could manipulate everything this way. But at this moment, I knew I wouldn't be able to escape this broken world. I saw him, but it wasn't just me. Today, everything was becoming more blurred. I tried several times to leave the house, but each time something brought me back inside. Even when I tried to escape through the windows, I found myself in front of the same door I had closed at the beginning. The place was devouring me, accelerating its movements, as if it knew every step I would take before I took it. I walked quickly through the corridors, searching for any exit that could return me to the world I knew. But every corner I turned, it changed. The walls were shrinking, and the doors were disappearing into the air. The sounds were overlapping and turning into strange whispers, but I couldn't identify their source. The sound following me was accelerating, and it was getting closer to me with every step. Then I heard something. It was a faint sound at first. Then it grew louder and clearer. The sound was like hidden whispers moving through the walls, and when I stopped to listen, I felt something heavy pressing on my chest, as if something was watching me from behind the closed doors. I rushed to one of the windows on the upper floor and ran towards it quickly. But something strange happened. Suddenly, everything became silent. No movement, no sound, as if time itself had stopped. Then the windows closed immediately, as if something invisible had closed them from the inside. Although I was screaming, the sound didn't reach anywhere. The sound faded into the air, just as it happens in nightmares. I was running, but I wasn't getting away from the place. I was returning to it again and again. Every step outward brought me closer inward. I no longer knew what was real and what was illusion. Everything in this place was devouring itself and repeating itself as if I were in an endless loop. I had only one feeling, that I had returned to where I started, to that moment I had anticipated, where there was no escape from this place. Today, the feeling of strangeness was in everything. I began to feel that I wasn't living in this place, but that I was part of this endless nightmare. I walked through the corridors as if in a continuous dream, unable to wake up no matter how hard I tried. Every movement, every step brought me back to where I was. The doors that were closed yesterday had now opened, but these weren't the windows I had expected. Light was filtering through them, but it was strange, unnatural. Everything looked distorted, tilted, as if reality itself was shifting before my eyes. And at some point, I felt something heavy pulling me inward. The sound reappeared, but this time it was different. It wasn't just a whisper. It was something breathing, burning with life. I was running, but my feet were sinking into the ground, as if I were swallowing the entire place. In that moment, I felt something seeping into me. Then suddenly everything became quiet. I no longer heard anything but myself. I had left the place, or at least I thought I had left it. But did I really get out? Or did I return to something else? I can't be sure. I felt that I had become a part of it, as if I were now living inside these moving walls. I returned, but something returned with me. Perhaps survival is an illusion. I may have physically left the place, but something strange accompanied me. Something I cannot describe or escape from. Now, as I write these lines, I have realized something strange. I left the place, indeed, I thought I had survived. But did I truly get out? Or did I just enter another dimension, a different place? The place you can't leave, because you have already become a part of it. Now, among these words, I find myself returning to my old thoughts. Am I here or there? And is what I am writing now the truth? Is this ink just lost thoughts? Or am I writing them while in a place that never lets me leave? What is happening here? Is the end a new beginning, or am I living in a vicious cycle? I try to find comfort in thinking of everything as illusions, but sometimes escape is not the answer. I paid the price, as expected. But there are things whose price you only pay after it's too late. The worst monsters are not those we see, but those that watch us without our knowing they exist.